Who is the puppet now? Hello beautiful bookworms, my name is Katarina and welcome to my channel, and today I was trying to do a little spoopy sort of video, but the sun decided to ruin my makeup. I was trying to go for a creepy ass ventriloquist doll. I'm scaring myself, but probably not any of you, so mission failed. I love it. So as you probably know, we are in the month of Halloween, and October for me is the month of everything spooky. So I decided to do something that I haven't seen a lot of people doing, and that is to recommend you some spooky manga for you to read for the season, because normally people don't pick up manga for the season. They pick up horror novels, they pick up Stephen King, they pick up, I don't know, other sorts of horror novels, but they never pick up mangas. And mangas for me are one of the most spooky, scary sort of things that you can actually read in the season. So I decided to share with you some recommendations. Some might be known, some might not be known, but I just wanted you guys to read something spooky for the season. And because mangas normally are shorter than normal novels, maybe you can read more, maybe you can read less, I don't know, we will see. So I decided to give you some recommendations based kind of on the type of horror that you would appreciate. If you don't like it, if you like it, whatever. And I'm just gonna jump right into it, so this video is not a big ass kind of video. So the first one that I'm going to recommend is one of the most known manga series slash animated series ever, but I decided to include this in this because this is not actually a horror manga. It's kind of more of a thrillerish kind of manga, which I believe that if you're starting manga and if you are starting into the horror genre, just dipping your toes into it, you can appreciate this way more than maybe someone that really is aiming for horror and doesn't really want to read this, although I think that you can also appreciate this, but that's another story. So I just decided to recommend it. And that is going to be Death Note, and this is my black edition, obviously, and this is by Tsugumi Hoba and Takeshi Obata, and obviously these names are impossible to pronounce right, but let's just pretend that I do. And Death Note, if you don't know, is basically the story of this kid named Light Yagami. He's a teenager. He's very, very bored because he's absolutely way smarter than his peers, and basically he finds Shinigami's, or a god of death's, notebook, which is a death note obviously, and he finds out that if you write somebody's name into the notebook, that person will die in a time frame predicted by the notebook and in the way that he tells that person to die, or a heart attack, or run over, or whatever. And he decides to use that notebook to actually change society and punish evil people and just bring up a better society that you could have right now. But obviously that backfires, and he starts getting this major god complex in which he owns the society and he's kind of their god and he's the one that has the power over everyone. And so it's basically a cat and mouse game between him and this police detective kid whose identity is secret, obviously, if not he would kill him. And it's kind of a game in which they are trying to find each other's identity, and you will see if somebody dies or not and who is the last to stand. It's a pretty nice thriller. If you enjoy normal thrillers, this one has plot twists, this one has a lot of scientific background and a lot of mysteries to be found. It has a little bit, obviously, of supernatural because of the Shinigamis, or death gods, but I feel like you can overcome that if you don't really enjoy that part of the thing. I think that you can overcome it for the cat and mouse game that the characters play. My second recommendation is going to be for those of you that do enjoy horror but enjoy sort of a more sci-fi-ish kind of horror, like, I don't know, something like Alien, or something like Parasite's getting into your body, which is actually what I'm going to recommend, and that is a Parasite by Hitoshi Hiwaki. And this is a very, very old one in the manga department, so this one probably most of you already heard about it, even if you haven't read it, and this is now having kind of a remake called Neo Parasite, which is, I believe, an amount of short stories that happened in the same time frame that this manga series happened, I believe. So this manga series is complete and you can have access to it, I believe, online if you don't want to buy it, or you can buy it. And this is basically the story of an alien parasite race that invades the earth and tries to get control of human brains. But this one specific parasite fails, and instead of going to the brain, he goes into the hand of the human host. So the human obviously apprehends him and stops him from going into the brain, and so there is this kind of symbiotic relationship that begins to arise between the parasite and that man, that kid. So he talks with his hand a lot, and it's really funny in a way, but it's also fairly creepy. It has a decent amount of gore for those of you that enjoy that. It is very sci-fi-ish. It has a lot of complicated notions like who are the parasites in this world, the humans or the actual parasites and other animals, because we are destroying the earth and they are not, and what does it mean to want to live and to kill other people in the process, and other important questions that you should ask yourself. At the same time, it has a lot of comedy relief, but it has a lot of deeper and scarring moments, so be advised for that. And if you like sci-fi-ish horror, this one will be the greatest for you. Now, the books that I'm going to recommend are kind of like more for horror fans, but it can also be for people that are tiptoeing into horror. Just be advised that the books that I'm going to recommend now really do have a fair amount of gore. Most of them are not as known as these books that I already presented, so be advised and go in carefully. But if you do enjoy horror and if you do appreciate some of the themes that I'm going to talk about, these will be the best for you. So first of all, we tiptoe into the land of ghost stories, sort of, and obviously you know that Japanese, because of their urban legends about ghosts, have a lot of culture ghosty sort of thing, so they are really good at this type of stories. And one that I absolutely recommend is Another. This is a bind-up of 4 manga volumes. You can get it online, you can get it in stores, and I believe that you can also get the novelization, which is not illustrated, is just written, obviously, as a novelization is. But this is basically a ghost story at its finest, and this is basically about this guy that changes to a city, into a new school, and in that new school, basically, there's this girl that wears an eye patch, and nobody talks to her, and she kind of appears like he's the only one that sees her. So you think that she's probably a ghost, and then you discover that in that classroom, someone died a long time ago, and because that person appears to be present, one of the students is chosen to be the dead one, so nobody talks with that student, and he is kind of like he's not there because he's giving the part to the dead student so that the class will always have a specific number of people with the dead student. But sadly, our main character didn't know about that, so he decided to go and talk with this girl. And because he does, and because the dead one already doesn't have space to be inside of this classroom, people start dying just so we can get his space. So basically you're trying to guess who the hell is the dead one, because the dead one manifests as a person and you never know that he or she is a ghost, and you have a lot of gory deaths just because that specific person does not have a place to be in the classroom. It's a really sad book / manga, obviously, but at the same time is really gory. It is really amazing to see it. It's kind of a normal ghosty horror movie that you know that it has a lot of flaws, but you love it anyways. This is what this is for me. Another is really cool. This one, the original story is by Yukito Ayatsuji and the artwork is by Hiroki Ohara, and I enjoy this so much. Continuing on the vein of ghost stories, but this one, be advised, this one is really extremely gory, and it deals with a lot of triggers like child abuse, mutilation, gore, blood everywhere, leaving your family, abandonment issues, suicide, so many things. So please be careful when you approach this one, and only do it if you actually do enjoy horror and are trigger-free and available to actually read this one, because this one can be very, very triggering. And this one is Corpse Party Blood Covered. So this is the first series, and then you have a big giant ass standalone that covers the second part of the series, and that one I do recommend if you like the first series, but if you don't have to get into it, because it's kind of more of a study of characters' deaths than anything else, so it's just very triggering as well. But this one actually has story. So this one, I believe it has 5 volumes, I think. Yeah, 5 volumes. And this is basically a ghost story at its finest as well, mixed with haunted house story, basically. So this is about these kids that, because one of their classroom mates is going to leave for another school, they decide to do the Sachiko-chan Ever After, which is kind of a charm that is supposed to keep them together forever, so that even if she goes, they will be together forever. And basically what happens is that charmed is cursed, and what happens to them is that they travel through the space frame and the time frame, and they end up in the school that was in that place before their school was built, and that school is a plague of ghosts that are trying to get revenge for being murdered. So basically you have a lot of ghost spooky kids without eyes and without tongues and everything that are trying to get revenge on our main characters because of what happened to them. And you have like this leader ghost, very creepy, and to get yourself free of that school, they kind of have to meet each other because they are all in different parallel dimensions of the same school, so they can't meet. So you have to meet each other, you have to keep your little piece of the charm intact with you, and you have to try and beat the odds to get back. This one is really, really dark. I really adored it, and it's really perfect to read in a Halloween night if you like to be scared. But as I said, if you have a lot of triggers, maybe don't pick this one up, because this one is really, really harsh. And for the end, I saved my personal favorite ones. I am not going to talk about all of the mangas that I read, so I decided to just pick my personal favorites and to show them to you. Again, if you like specific topics from Halloween, and particularly if you enjoy witches, one of the best mangas that you could read is Umineko no Nakokoro ni, or Humineko When the Seagulls Cry, or When They Cry, or whatever you want to translate that, because bear in mind that those translations are shit. And this story is by Ryukishio 7 and by Kei Natsumi, this specific art, because throughout the mangas the art style changes and the person that draws changes, so whatever. And this is basically the story of this family that is going to join together in an island because the patriarch of the family has decided to give his inheritance to one that can actually decipher and fulfill the curse of the Golden Witch. And the person that can achieve whatever that curse and those lines mean, that person will win the inheritance. So it kind of appears to be like a thriller-ish sort of thing, but it's not, because in the middle you discover that that exact witch is actually alive, and she wants to kill everyone on the island, including the patriarch of the family, because he made a contract with her, and I don't want to spoil you, but yeah. So basically what happens is our main character, Yushinomino Butler, he decides to play this cat and mouse game with this witch, in which they are betting their own lives. So what he does is tell her that he doesn't believe that witches exist, and so because of that she does not exist, and because of that his family can't die. And what she tells him is that witches do exist, and she's going to kill his family in ways that he cannot explain by natural meanings, and if she wins, he's going to be her slave forever. So it's kind of a chess game between the two, and he has to see his entire family die many, many times, which is kind of scarring and horrible because they are very gory and horrifying ways. And she has to keep killing them until one of them gives up or one of them cannot explain properly what happened. So it's really a chess game, but with gory deaths and with witches, magic, so it's really cool for Halloween, for October season, and it's not a very known one, so prompts to you if you are going to read this, because this is not very known and you could have a piece of jewelry that you don't know about. And now for my favorite one of all of the recommendations that I'm giving, and bear in mind that this one has all of the triggers that you can think of. I'm not even going to list them because there's a lot. I would advise you to go to Wikipedia or something to try and figure out exactly if one of your triggers is there, but it probably is. So yeah, but it is perfect. It is perfect not because it is gory or because there are a lot of deaths, but it is perfect because it joins together sci-fi, a friendship group, and you have to play the part of detective. So it is pretty amazing. And that is going to be Higurashi no Nakokoro ni, or Higurashi When They Cry. I'm holding up the last volume of the series, which is number 26. So obviously this series is really, really ginormous, and I'm not telling you to buy it because it is really difficult to get all of them, first of all, and because it is very expensive, but you can get it online and you can actually watch the animation, which I feel like is not as well made as this one, but is a good adaptation. So if you want to go there, you can go there. This is basically the story of a group of friends that keep reliving the same span of days until a festival night, and in every time that they relive their days, someone or all of them die brutally, and then when they get to relive it again, they're all alive again and they're all fine and they're all playing together. And you can find that this is a bit weird, but it has a lot to do with magic and witches and gods and sci-fi-ish Japanese sort of things. But the most important in here is that this is, although it does have a villain, which I'm not going to say who it is, and although it has a lot of time frames and a lot of things, this is basically an in-depth character study of mental illness. Every one of our characters has a mental illness or has a very, very abusive problem in their past or in their present, or has some situation that they would be able to deal with if they would have a normal, calm life, which they don't. And every set of things that is set in motion will end up with them death. So it's kind of like their journey to try and figure out, because they don't have the same memories of what happened. So they never retain their memories of the days that they die and they relive. So it's kind of their journey to actually try and break free of this cycle, and using the power of friendship and the trusting in others to actually do it, which I believe it is perfect because it shows you that mental illness cannot be treated by just meeting someone and be happy and just have a lot of friends. It just shows you that you have to learn to trust, to talk about the things that are wrong with you, and to just accept yourself and be able to work with what we have and have someone there that can help you, basically. Basically, this says you have to ask for help so that you can be helped. And it is so powerful. I actually cried a lot reading this because I just wanted them to be okay, and they were never okay. But I'm not going to tell you how this ends, but I feel like you should make an investment if you like horror, but at the same time you like something with meaning that is going to get you to a meaningful ending and to an in-character deep study of the characters. This one it's the perfect manga series for horror, Halloweenish sort of thing that actually has a meaning and is not just a slasher killing people. Which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with slasher killing people because those are one of the best horror movies that I have ever seen in my life, so I am not judging. So that is going to be all for my manga recommendations. Please tell me down below if you've heard anything about one of these mangas, if you're planning on reading them, if you enjoy these recommendations, or if you know any of other mangas that would be cool for the spooky season. Just a disclaimer, I didn't talk about the horror master manga Junji Ito because I think that one pretty much goes without saying since he is the horror master of mangas. And if you're curious about who that is, go check Wikipedia because everything about him, he's there. So yeah guys, that is all for today, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you like it, leave a like or subscribe, and have a really spooky season. And I'm sorry my spooky costume did not scare anyone beside me. And yeah, that's gonna be all for today, so happy readings to you all. Bye!